I love trivia. Solving crosswords and playing along to Jeopardy and pub trivia nights. I am arguably at my best in settings where it matters if you know the meaning of the word extispicy, the prophetic reading of animal entrails. Or if you can identify the inventor of the removable shoulder pad. It was Florence Melton, also the founder of the Florence Melton School of Adult Jewish Studies. Or if you can draw an Ouroboros, the Greek symbol of a snake devouring its own tail. Now, I don't know any of these things for any specific purpose. I just know them. This knowledge comes from what we might call Torah lishma, or learning for learning's own sake. There is a joy in learning with no express purpose, in learning because you can, not because you must. One of the best parts of my job is facilitating the weekly Bible and Bagels text study group. This group is reading the Tanakh, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, word by word. This community has been meeting for 31 years to pursue Torah lishma, learning simply to learn. And I think you will all be proud to know that we recently entered the book of Isaiah. There's so much to learn. The text of the Tanakh reveals itself to us in new ways each week. But more importantly, we learn from the wisdom of the participants, the Bible and Bagels founders, the newcomers, many of whom who have been attending for over a decade, and even from the come-latelys like me, who've been learning together for 2 years or less. The Talmud teaches us that in the school of Rabbi Ishmael, they discussed Jeremiah 23:29. My word is my word not like fire, says Adonai, and like a hammer that smites the rock. What happens when a hammer smites the rock? Sparks fly. Every single spark is the result of the impact of the hammer upon the rock. No single spark is the sole result. And as these biblical rabbis, as these ancient rabbis taught, thus too, one single scripture verse can transmit many different teachings. These ancient rabbis were telling us that we can and should identify multiple meanings from a single verse of Torah. What an important lesson that is. Bible and Bagels conversations leave us with dozens of possible interpretations of verses and even of single words each and every week. The messages we glean from our text don't exist on paper only. Many of us find ourselves changing the way we live or behave based on what we've learned in Bible and Bagels. It is an unfolding process of reading and thinking and deciding, therefore, how to act. This approach to text and to life is inherently Jewish. And conveniently, the source for this approach is in this week's parashah. Na'aseh v'nishma, our ancient ancestors declared, as Nan chanted so beautifully for us at the foot of Mount Sinai. We will do and we will listen. On the Peshat, or the simple level, this promise seems to say that we will do, and only then will we consider the reasons for our doing. Fake it till you make it. Is that really the lesson of our text? It would be easy to think that if you read only that verse, but I want to suggest a different meaning just beneath the surface. As the Bible and Bagels group frequently acknowledges, reading granularly, word by word, has huge value. It can lead us to alternative understandings. Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do, and then we will listen. But a granular read suggests that these words might also be understood as, we will do, and we will learn to understand. While this interpretation is better than before, not even this is exactly the meaning of the verse as I understand it. The other way to read, not just granularly, the other way to read is to zoom out, as the Bible and Bagels group frequently does to make sense of our sacred texts. We can look at the context of a teaching, and here, zooming out, shows us that na'aseh v'nishma is not the first related statement in this parasha. Just a few verses earlier, the Israelites proclaimed, Kol hadavarim asher diber Adonai na'aseh. All the things that God has said, we will do. According to this verse, God speaks, and only once we've listened do we promise to act. Looking at this fuller context gives us a new order and a new insight. Na'aseh v'nishma, doing and listening, only happens after we are already listening. And thus, we create a new template for our own learning and living. God will speak, and we will act, and we will listen again. It's an Ouroboros, the snake devouring its tail, the symbol of infinity, of no beginning and no end. It's a roadmap to a lifetime of engagement and growth. And lest you think this lesson only concerns Torah, Catherine Bird, a scholar of education, writes in a brand new article published next month, this skill of changing one's mind endures to benefit learners, workplaces, and society as a whole. Developing and articulating an informed opinion and then considering new information seriously enough to change that opinion can stimulate new creativity in adult workplaces. The same process is also vital to democracy, where we must always be ready to change the way that we view issues as we learn more about them. It is time, she writes, to abandon our own desires to present certainty in our opinions and start revealing just how often we too change. Rabbi Buchdahl's powerful sermon last Shabbat demonstrated the strength of uncertainty and the concrete power of fluid and evolving emotions. She showed us that it's okay not to know so long as we don't stop seeking. So let us all learn to listen and act, do and learn, seek and grow in a never-ending cycle that brings us ever closer to one another and ever closer to God. Shabbat Shalom.